Tropical Roofing Products was started on the piece of property that we're sitting on today in Hallandale, Florida in 1952. The company was started by a gentleman named George Gleason. George was Jackie's cousin, and if you remember correctly, The Honeymooners was filmed down here in South Florida. The whole Gleason family grew up around here. George ran the company as part manufacturer, part distributor, and Florida, as well as the business, was dramatically different then. There was no I-95 next to us, it was not an urban center, and it was a small rural company. As Florida started to grow and change, the Gleasons didn't like it here so much anymore, so they put the company up for sale and they sold it to a couple of women who had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. The women once again changed the company, became kind of a low-end, price-oriented company, and they sold a lot of driveway sealer to gypsies and travelers. They didn't have the best reputation in the world, and the company had some tumultuous times. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, my father was the seventh son of a gentleman who was a garbage, horse buggy garbage man in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and my father came up on very hard times. He was the youngest child, and his brothers chipped in, sent him to college. He was the first one to ever go to college, and he got a degree in chemical engineering. My dad was a very left-of-the-dial guy, and as I grew up, he would always tell us these stories about how big companies stunk and they'll screw you over. And being a chemical engineer, my father had the opportunity to work for a lot of big companies, and turned out he was right. I was born in New York. We lived there till I was 3. We moved to Chicago till I was 12. We moved to Kansas till I was 17. When I was 17 years old, my father got the best job of his life running a paint company for a friend of his in Des Moines, Iowa. So as soon as we moved up to Des Moines, my dad's friend passed away. His 2 boys took over the company, and the first thing they did was can my dad. So my dad found himself out of work at 63 years old. I had just entered college at the time, and he called me up one day and said, "Hey kid, you're on your own." And my parents had some rough years. They bounced around the country looking for work. Ended up down here in Miami Beach living with his mother-in-law. My father took a job for minimum wage working for the 2 women at their sales counter. Saw that they were going to go out of business, and with his last $20,000, all the money he had for the rest of his life, he put it down on this company. He called me up. I had just graduated college. I was going to go to law school in the fall, and he said, "Hey, I need you." So I moved down here, and I worked in the factory and drove the truck and drove the forklift, and we started to create a real company out of it. We started making better quality products. We started soliciting a different market. We started making professional grade materials, and slowly but surely, by making quality products, by doing what we said we were going to do, by adding some organization to it all, our company started to grow. And pretty soon we're selling in Miami, and then we're selling in Tampa and Orlando and Atlanta. And as the company grew and we got a good reputation, I got very active in the a trade organization we had just formed of manufacturers like ourselves, Roof Coating Manufacturers Organization. I went from secretary to treasurer to vice president to president. And during the time there, I met other manufacturers. I met a family whose story was similar to ours in Los Angeles. I'd always wanted to have some business in Los Angeles to learn from it, besides wanted to have a stake in my life in Southern California. And we started negotiating with them, and 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we bought the California facility. A year later, we moved into our Texas facility, where we do a lot of private label for one of our more significant customers, and our business grew from there. So we developed a nationwide footprint. As we got national, we saw that there were a lot of trends in the roofing industry and a lot of trends in industry that we wanted to take advantage of, and we began to change our company. First segue was away from some of the old hazardous materials we used to use and creating some new formulations, creating the power gel structure that gives our products some body. And then we started to segue away even from some of the asphalt materials into some reflective coatings, some waterborne emulsions, some restoration systems, some elastomeric coatings. Believing in roof restoration and the cool roof systems, we started producing our own elastomerics, and have started to ship stuff out of buckets into bulk and are always looking for new, creative, sustainable solutions. And it's between us and the staff we have, it's created a dynamic new company moving into the 21st century. So go tropical.